So I want to begin by addressing a matter that has come to the public's attention, and that is a memo circulating from the Sheriff's Department. While the contents have surprised some, I want to be clear that the contents did not surprise me. We have long known that our law enforcement systems, while filled with individuals that served with integrity, have deep institutional challenges accepting necessary change. There is no denying the reality that people incarcerated in our jails are still members of our community, particularly as they await trial. They are not just statistics, they are not disposable, and they are not beyond the reach of justice or compassion. They are sons and daughters, neighbors, and friends deserving basic dignity and the full protection of their constitutional rights. No one should face a de facto death sentence while awaiting trial. No one should be subjected to abuse in a jail cell. And no one should fear for their life during a traffic stop. These are not radical beliefs. So when we talk about public safety, we must expand our understanding. Public safety does not mean that someone dies in custody before their trial without humane resources. Real public safety is making sure that every person in our custody has access to medical care, to mental health services, to substance use treatment, not because we are being generous, but because we are being just. It means ensuring that taxpayer dollars are not endlessly drained by preventable lawsuits, settlements, and tragedies. It means building systems that prioritize care over control and healing over harm. My priority is to improve transparency and to build accountability that has historically been missing from these systems. It is no longer business as usual. That's why in December of last year, I introduced a policy to reform and strengthen civilian oversight of our county's law enforcement agencies. Our current oversight board still lacks the tools to investigate in-custody deaths effectively. That has to change. We anticipate the first draft of the ordinance that my office introduced in December will be presented sometime next month. We expect this draft ordinance to provide the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board the authority to investigate other employees, including contracted healthcare providers, in cases involving in-custody deaths. Under current law, CLERB's authority is limited to sworn peace officers. That creates major gaps in the oversight process. Expanding CLERB's jurisdiction is a step towards addressing that. So in her memo, the sheriff was right about one thing. More and more jails are becoming the front lines for mental health and substance use crises. And that should give us all pause. Jail is not the place for people struggling with trauma, addiction, or housing insecurity. It is a failure of policy and imagination that we continue to treat public health issues as criminal matters. So to the sheriff and any of our county partners, if there is a genuine interest in supporting decentralizing the role of jails in treating behavioral health, then let's work together on that. My office is willing and ready to work with anyone who has the heart of providing meaningful steps to decriminalize mental illness, to address homelessness with housing, and to divert individuals into treatment. These issues are real, and they require real community-based solutions, not incarceration. And let's be clear, this is about human beings and the dignity and respect that they deserve. It's about making systems work better and a call for more humane treatment. So now my primary focus today is to announce the work we're doing to address similar concerns in our juvenile justice system. I take issues surrounding our youth very seriously. And I fully believe that if we cannot commit to building systems that support youth development rather than deepen their trauma, then what are we doing? In May, California Attorney General Rob Bonta announced a civil rights investigation into the treatment of youth in San Diego County's juvenile detention facilities. While we wait for the outcome of that investigation, I cannot ignore some of the reports that I've already seen and heard about the use of OC spray on young people, about staff failing to use de-escalation techniques, and about systemic failures in how these incidents are tracked, reported, and addressed. I've heard numerous reports over multiple years stating that officers do not attempt to de-escalate a fight. Instead, sometimes they wait until the fight has started and then use force, either physical or the use of the OC spray, to break up the fight. I've heard cases of OC spray used in situations where a self-harming youth refused to kneel into the cover position, or even in instances where there is a refusal to submit to a strip search. This overuse is unacceptable, and these are all systemic issues that require a systemic response. Although the county has been working with the Council of Juvenile Justice Administrators since 2017, much of that work has taken place out of public view. Reports have not been shared, findings have not been brought to the board, and that lack of transparency is part of the larger problem of overall accountability and oversight. So tomorrow I will be introducing a proposal to meet this moment with the seriousness that it deserves. First, we will be creating a new subcommittee on juvenile justice to proactively review conditions in our youth detention facilities, to coordinate with oversight bodies, and recommend needed policy changes. The subcommittee, which will consist of myself and Supervisor Aguirre, will report directly to the board quarterly and ensure ongoing public accountability. We will also be extending and expanding our partnership with the Council of Juvenile Justice Administrators. For the first time, CJJA will be required to share all findings and recommendations directly with the Board of Supervisors, not just with the Probation Department. That includes training reports, assessments, and all related materials. Another major change that we're proposing in a plan to eliminate one of the largest changes, another major change that we're proposing, is a plan to eliminate the use of chemical agents, including OC spray, in all youth detention facilities within 2 years. This will not be done overnight, but it must be done. No child should be sprayed with chemical agents in the name of discipline or control. We will pilot alternatives during the phase out and collaborate with community partners, health experts, and educators to make sure that we get it right. Furthermore, every probation officer working with youth will be required to complete MAT training, which is a trauma-informed program focused on de-escalation and safe behavior management. We are also developing plans to significantly reduce use of force and to de-emphasize room confinement, also known as solitary confinement. These practices are harmful to the long-term physical and mental health of our youth, and they run counter to everything we know about youth development and rehabilitation. The Chief Probation Officer will be directed to return to the board within 60 days with detailed plans, one for phasing out OC spray and another for implementing these new approaches to supervision, behavior management, and accountability. We must be serious about building a youth justice system rooted in science and common sense. As an elected official with a community-centered approach, I know that these proposals are in direct response to real harm. They are built on the lived experiences of young people who are relying on us to do better. If we want a juvenile justice system that truly supports families and communities, we need transparency. And above all, we need a culture that prioritizes healing and not punishment. This is how we begin to rebuild trust in our communities. I want to thank the community advocates, legal teams, subject matter experts who helped shape these recommendations into meaningful policy. And I also want to say a special thank you to Jaylani Morris Bridges and Kyle Simpson for sharing their stories with me about treatment in our youth detention centers. you and all that are around you are deserving of dignity and respect. Our youth deserve a system that believes in their growth, not one that reinforces their trauma. And with that, I will open it up to questions. Anyone have any questions? Yes.
Regarding the CJJA reports, are you going to be asking for past recommendations and reports that they've provided to probation?
I think CJJA, from what I've seen, has done a pretty good job of summarizing what they see, right? And so a lot of that is addressed in the board letter. They see instances of use of force that should not be. They want to strengthen positive relationships between the officers and the youth that are involved. So, less of that punishment type model, more of how can we see the young people grow and when they come out into society, be productive. They also saw that isolation and room confinement, issues around that. And so I think although there may be some outstanding recommendations, most of the recommendations revolve around, the 3 to 5 issues that they've seen pretty consistently.
So you've talked to them about what they've been telling
I've talked to them. We've read through the majority of the reports, yes. Yes.
Vice Chair, I know you already talked about this a little bit or touched on it. As far as the sheriff goes, she made this reference to a program, supposedly, that doesn't even exist up in LA County. I know you can't get in her head to say exactly why she did that, but what do you think that says about the state of how serious they are about wanting to do real change, make real change in their jail system?
Well, yeah, I did talk about it, and what I will say is this: if there is a genuine desire to change the way that we provide physical and mental health within the jail system, then I am here for that. I am here for those conversations. But I truly believe with law enforcement, with government, with bureaucracy, we all should stand up in the face of accountability, and we all should be running toward accountability. And I do think that CLERB provides a part of that civilian oversight. So no matter what, if we get, if there's a model out there that would allow us to have sort of a third party monitor on these things, I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but accountability will always be a part of that equation. And so I don't want there to be this idea that if we have an additional monitor, right, that we can forego accountability. I will never be for that. But I'm always about conversations from finding innovative ways to ensure that folks don't die in our custody. Yes.
How much power has CLERB really had before this? I mean, it seems kind of, I don't know, how much power do you think, or how much more accountability will there be if they're able to monitor, the medical staff? I know that's a big part of this, but it just kind of seems like CLERB has been out there and they've come up with their reports, and yet nothing's ever, it's just like it's there.
Well, a couple of things. I think what we have introduced as within our ordinance will give them a more full picture of what occurs during those in custody deaths. I think that that's helpful, and the families support it. So I think that should be lifted up here as well. At the end of the day, the sheriff is an elected position, right? And so she has noted that she has done some work to reduce the number of deaths in our jails, but there's still, there has to be a consensus among people that we need to do better. And, I will continue to do whatever it is in my power, which is limited as a supervisor, but I will continue to do whatever that is to uphold accountability in all of our systems. Anyone else? Yes.
The Sheriff's Department is currently doing a lot of capital improvements on their jails, and they've gotten some amount of money from the county already. Do you see the board giving them more money to create a better space for folks who are mentally ill and awaiting trial or need a higher level of care?
Yeah, I have not discussed that, with the sheriff or with any of our county staff. We will have to see what that looks like. So I don't know. That's the answer. not sure, open to it, but also it needs to make sense. And also we are going into a time now where we're really going to have to watch every dollar because folks are getting cut from the mandated services that we are required to provide, including Medi-Cal and CalFresh. And so everything that I am going to look at will be within that lens. And I believe that in taking a holistic approach, the more we cut people from the services and resources that have provided housing for them, that have provided food for them, that have provided quality health care for them, the more people are prone to go into an incarceration system, which is what I'm trying to avoid and prevent.
Vice Chair, one
Yes.
question.
Yes.
You touched on this already also about the juveniles who share their stories with you regarding what's kind of going on with their situations, which I know you can't speak to specifically exactly what happened to them, but can you give us somewhat of a picture of like the problems or sort of?
Yes. So these two individuals in particular, and I think I talked about some of the instances that are in those CJJA reports, right? So we want to make sure that we're focusing on the system as a whole. But these two individuals had the courage to write, and I received their letters. And really what it talks about is a lot of the progress they have been able to make through the system, partly by some change in the law at the state level that has allowed them to go to school while they are in custody. It has allowed them to participate in activities while they are in custody. But they have talked about the fight against some of the institutional challenges every step of the way. So both of them have graduated from Southwestern College. They're going on. One is going to Fresno State. One is going to San Diego State. They have major success stories, but they believe they want to tell their own story. And they want to talk about the harm that has still been done to them, that the disrespect that they have felt in that process, and they have been able to succeed in spite of all of those things. So I just wanted to thank them for their courage in sharing their stories and wish them all the best as they go out and they really contribute to society, because the opposite would be recidivism, which is what we don't want.
And Supervisor, you called for the end of this, the use of the spray?
That is correct. We're calling for a phase out of the use of OC spray over the next 2 years. There are many states that have actually banned the use of OC spray within juvenile detention facilities. California is not one of those states, but we have at least 7 counties that have, larger counties that have banned that use. And so we want to join that. We want to also provide training for our probation officers so that they have additional techniques to deal with some of the issues that do come up in the facilities. And we're also giving that 2 years to phase it out. So it's not as if, this goes before the board tomorrow and, hopefully it passes and then the next day there is no more use of it. But we want to make sure that we are giving time, but we're also doing the right thing by young people. Again, I will state it again, there is no need for a child to be sprayed with chemical agents.
Had you heard from family members saying that they have been sprayed and harmed by that spray?
There are instances noted in the CJJA reports that have been provided to the county. And I have, I'm in communication with quite a few of the parents that have young people in there, but the documentation is within those reports.
I have one more quick question.
Yes.
The MAP training, probation has said that they do, I don't know if they require it, but that officers who work in juvenile halls have gone through MAP training.
Yes.
Have you talked to them about it? Is it not mandatory, or is it not enough, or do they need a higher level of training?
There are officers that have not gone through the training based on how long they've been at the department. I know that it was required for newer officers. We just want to ensure that every officer that is working with young people is getting the training. Anybody else? Okay, and I'm available for one-on-ones if anyone wants one as well. Thank you so much for being here, for coming.
Thank you.